Welcome to this edition of the Million Dollar Mastermind podcast. This is where we pick the brains of high achievers from all walks of life and get their hard-earned, real-world insights on winning. I'm your host, Larry Weidel. I'm here with Heather Smith. Hello, Heather. How are you?
Hello. I am great. How are you?
I'm good. I hear you've got some busyness going on in your personal life right now.
I do. My daughter's having a baby. So
wow. Well,
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Looking forward to that. It's hard to focus when you've got that hanging over your head like that. Will this be first grandbaby or?
First.
First. Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. And we'll see if we can have some fun and get your mind off of the impending event and also get some information that might be useful for your own StoryFile, that the baby down the road will find out about. So, Heather, let people know what in the world you have done here with StoryFile and, a little bit about the concept, but about how people have responded to it and the kind of impact it's starting to happen. Because it is, as I understand it, it's just getting traction. This is something that is spread, the viral spread and all of that stuff is just beginning to take over, but it's something that everybody should be interested in. My own personal thing with, in our family, I'm the one who takes the pictures and documents everything. And I put together the 1,500-page grandmother Wiltshire diary with all the pictures from my grandmother. It was her, we found after she died, she had been taking notes for 30 years. Wow. And so we put them out and gave it to everybody. But then my own mother, I tried. I've been working on that when she's been gone for 12 years, and I'm still trying to get the book out on her life, which was amazingly interesting. But if there had been something like StoryFile, it would already be there, and it'd be a whole lot better. And so I'm simpatico to what you're doing, and can see how it would save a lot of grief, and also you get live, real answers where it doesn't come through ghostwriters and things like that. Because that's why my thing isn't done, because we had the ghostwriter and he would kind of take all the interview questions and put it back in his words. And it was like, everybody, I'd send out the proofs to everybody and they go, what a pile of crap is this? And so you, with StoryFile, you bypass that and it's explained to, you've been going since 2017. Is that right?
Well, I actually came up with the concept in 2010.
Okay.
And it was essentially to replicate the experience that we were having in the public with Holocaust survivors who would go out, they would tell a little bit about their story, and then they'd open it up to a Q&A with the audience. And it was that Q&A that was so engaging. Like if think back to the last lecture that you went to, and next time you go to one, I want you to stop when they stop speaking and they open it up to a Q&A. The audience changes. The energy changes in the room.
Right, exactly.
And so we wanted to preserve that experience of you being able to ask your own question and just have a conversation and have it lead wherever you wanted it to lead. So we did Holocaust survivors, and it was, we didn't know whether or not it would work as I had envisioned it. It ended up working really well. Thank God. And the one question I kept getting from the public, we would go all over the world trying to, get people to talk to these survivors this way, and just mostly to collect data, collect the questions that people are asking. And one of the number one questions I kept getting was, can I do this myself? Can I do my grandfather? Can I do the founder of our company? Can I do this for myself? Can I, my aunt was just diagnosed with a terminal illness. Can I do this with her? And at the time, it was very, very expensive to do. And so what we realized was, all right, if we're going to make this technology ubiquitous for people, it had to be automated. It had to be cloud-based. You had to be able to use any camera you have, access to, like your smartphone or your laptop or whatever. So in 2017, we saw that technology was kind of heading in the direction that we might be able to make this and create it. And so we started StoryFile to do.
And so, in sales, most the best prospects in sales are always friend to friend, referrals. And I've been in sales all my life. And so when you're out there talking to people and say, who do you know that might be interested in, we've got something going right now. And, you're in the market for what we're doing. I don't know if you have any need for it, but who do you know that we should be talking to, and they said, well, what is it? And then, you've got something good. If at the end of that, they say, what about me?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like indirect prospecting. But what you found right off the bat, you found that indirect response, what about me? And that gave you the impetus for going forward, even though probably lots of money, it meant lots of work, lots of money, unproven.
Right.
And so for when you're starting off, I think I know the answer to this, but it's like the answer to most of the things we cover on here. How do you go out and get started with something people have never even heard of, and there's never been one before, and you're trying to turn that into a business? How do you get traction?
Very difficultly, very slowly. Unless you raise millions and millions and millions of dollars for advertising, it's difficult. But besides that, you still have the educating the public on what you're doing, and getting them to know that it exists and you can do this and it's easy. And we've all had that moment where a loved one has passed away, and after, maybe months after, years after even, we think about things that we never talked to them about. And we don't know because we never asked. So everybody's had that sense. So it's trying to, it's getting people to the point where you could tap into that and say, don't wait until that happens. Here's a solution. You can record this person, and it doesn't take that much time. It's easy. It's an amazing experience for you to have with your loved one to do. It's an incredible bonding experience, actually. And then you have something of substance that you can pass on to generations. Like your mother, you mentioned, you didn't want the ghostwriter to write it in different words, and rewrite.
Right.
And not, it wasn't in her voice. This is in your voice. It's visually you. There's all the nonverbal cues because it's in video. So you really get the sense that you're talking to this individual. You get the sense that you know them after you've had these conversations. So it's just an amazing process. But yeah, it's really hard when you're trying to change behavior and you've come
So
up.
what practical things did you do? Did the Holocaust thing, is that an ongoing, continuing project that's still kind of funding that you can piggyback off to launch this thing, or is that over?
That project was funded, and I left that project. I left it to, I partnered with the USC Shoah Foundation on that project.
A USA who? Who is that?
USC Shoah Foundation.
Okay.
It's the foundation that Steven Spielberg started after Schindler's List, and
Right.
he ended up ultimately recording 55,000 Holocaust survivor narrative histories.
And you
So
were involved in that?
it's no, not in the
Right.
55,000, no, but
Right.
it's the largest audiovisual archive of anything, any single subject in the world.
Yeah.
And so it I needed to partner with them because if this project was going to happen and have a life of its own afterwards and be used for education and preserved for posterity, it needed to be with that institute.
For those of you who are sick and tired of fooling around and are dead serious about wanting to move up fast, I've got something especially for you. I've combined the best insights from over 40 years in business and making $70 million in income and compressed them into a free webinar. That's right, it's a free resource. If you want to find out exactly what the concepts are that I use in coaching million-dollar earners, register now at WeidelOnWinning.com. You'll discover the 5-part framework used by so many to reach their financial, personal, and professional goals. You can find that link in this episode's show notes.
So I partnered with them. I left that project in 2018, and because we started StoryFile in 2017, and they, I believe, are still taking still doing this concept. They call it dimensions in testimony. And I think they're still doing the same concept with some survivors, but they're not doing many of them anymore.
And so you said when we started this, who's we that went and started StoryFile?
So the executive director of the USC Shoah Foundation, myself, and Sam Gussman, and a woman named Cecilia Chan at that time. And then most of the team that I had developed this whole technology, like this whole process, this whole methodology, this
Right.
new way of interviewing people, we all grouped together and said, okay, what would it look like if we did make it ubiquitous? So I've been with this team for over 10 years doing this.
So that was kind of a huge moment
Yeah.
of a kind of an exodus.
Mhm.
We're going to be using the biblical terms here of a group of people who were sold on a concept,
Mhm.
and to make a shift like that to start a new company.
Yeah.
And then you were the leader.
Mhm.
How did you get to be the leader?
I think it was my vision. It was my obsession. It was my life's work.
Yeah.
And we had built a team, and I had time also. A lot of the other individuals were still working day jobs especially in 2017.
Right.
So it took them a little bit longer to actually come on board full time. But just I think time and opportunity and
Well,
the desire to lead it,
well, I think you obviously had the most experience and most passion for it,
Yeah.
and the best instincts, because you probably had more hours in it than anybody else in terms of running it.
Right.
And things, people are always looking for takeaways because, what this is a $1 million mastermind. That's what the podcast is. It's like, how can you organize? The thing is, there's 24 hours, and we've all got 24 hours in the day. We don't know how many of those blocks of time we've got.
Right.
But some people, obviously, like Steven Spielberg, went out there, went to USC. He was just a nerd with a camera. But now he obviously did well, and blockbusters. Now he's got money to fund something like that. He had the same 24 hours a day over the last 4 decades as all the rest of us. He obviously made more things happen. And so when you're looking at how can I make things happen, what are cues I can use and learn? Is one thing is you've been on the same, you got captivated by an idea and got a chance to try it out, and you got proof that it worked. Real, you're not a professor sitting in a college saying, this would be great. I've got this idea. And where you sit around the lounge and you talk, and some of the students like it, some of the parents like it, and you do 15 or 20 of them, and hey, let's go raise money. No, like you said, you're traveling the world. You spent years on it. You got all kind of feedback, and I'm sure there was refinements happening as you went. That's like the product development and the refinements and the insights about how you explain it, how you ask the question, how you get people to be comfortable. All that that came and evolved as you went along.
Not as much as you'd think.
Really?
I think that the one thing that did evolve was obviously the tech made certain things easier, made certain things possible.
What tech?
Okay, so we had to make it all automated. So everything, and it's mostly in regard to uploading and downloading video. And then, you had to be able to capture it in real time. And that video had to do certain things in real time and then come back to you in real time. So it's a whole process, and we needed a lot of infrastructure. 5G's helped a lot with that, but not everybody has 5G. So how do you work around that? And how do you get around that? The whole, the natural language processing or natural language understanding, we've pushed the boundaries on that a lot in order to get a more conversational, to replicate a true conversation. And it still has a long way to go. Don't get me wrong. There are things that we've got on our roadmap, for the next 5 years. So it will only get better. Everything else. Well,
as the progression of AI, has that made a difference? Because it sounds like this is an artificial intelligence type project.
Yeah, artificial intelligence is a kind of a catch-all for a lot of tech.
Right.
And so the things that we rely on the most are speech recognition, transcribing accurately, and also the natural language processing, natural language understanding component of it. There's all kinds of different little things in between that have to happen, and that we're pushing the boundary and getting being able to put together a more natural conversation. Now, it is all based on what you've said. Right. So we don't edit any of the clips. Like when you go on to the StoryFile Life product, which is the consumer product, and then there's a whole different platform for business that's a SaaS platform. But when you go into the consumer product, StoryFile Life, you'll see that you'll be able to record yourself answering a bunch of questions. There are 2,000 questions you can choose from. You can also add your own questions because, every family has those stories that are told at the Thanksgiving table, or, when you all get together, like Aunt Joe will tell this one story that she's famous for, or Grandpa will tell these stories, So you want those captured, obviously, as well. So you have to be able to add your own questions. But you go on that and you record it. And so every single clip, when you press record until you finish recording, that stays the same. That we never change that. That's not manipulated. It's not we don't make avatars out of you. We don't change what you've said, nothing. So it stays true to who you are in your own voice. Like you were saying, you didn't want your grandmother's words, mixed up and misrepresented. So I don't want my grandmother, 50, 100 years from now, talking to my descendants and getting to know that they're, getting to know their ancestors, but not hearing it from them.
Let me ask you this.
We can do this now. We can do this. Before you couldn't do it. Now we can do it. You can talk to 50 years from now. You can talk to your great, 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 great grandchildren, and they can get to know you, or anybody.
Yeah, and that is a little bit sci-fi, hard to get your head around, but it's here,
Yeah.
and
And it's
using
an
it.
easy way. It's an easy way. Like you said, you probably had to interview ghostwriters. Your mother had to be interviewed. They took hours. It was really expensive. Now it's super easy. You do this interview with your relative that is actually an amazing experience for the both of you to do. And you've got something of value afterwards. That's it.
Thanks for listening to the Million Dollar Mastermind. If you felt there were any valuable takeaways from this episode, please take a minute and leave us a 5-star review. Your feedback is important and really helps us get the word out to a wider audience. Remember, we have a valuable webinar that is absolutely free. Register for it right now at weidelonwinning.com. Thanks for listening.